welcome back to the Let's Talk podcast with me and David, and today we're going to be talking about the 1987 sci-fi classic, RoboCop. And this is one of me and David's other favorite films, so we're bouncing between a lot of our favorites here, but we overlap on this one. And David, why do you like RoboCop so much?
Why do I like RoboCop? I just think it's just an excellent, well-made movie. It may even be the best sci-fi robot movie of the 80s. What do you think, John?
If Terminator didn't exist, I guess RoboCop would be there. I mean, they're both in my top 10 all time, so it's fine.
What's in your top 10 of all time? Yeah?
Oh, RoboCop, 100%.
Yeah.
I can rewatch RoboCop all the time. Like, I wasn't even going to rewatch it for this, but the other night I'm like, you know what? I'll throw RoboCop on before I go to sleep. And then, of course, I watched the whole thing.
Yeah. Look, do you know what? I don't know. It wouldn't be in my top 10. It might be in my top 20. It's definitely in my top 30. But I think there was a time, this movie came out. It was ultra violent, very over the top, very comic bookish. We had talked before about on one of our podcasts, I think it was Ghostbusters, and I had said about, suppose Ghostbusters was our superheroes, and I think that RoboCop kind of falls into that type of same train of thought in the 80s. Over the top, ultra violent. I think that's what appealed to a lot of people back then, and I think over the years it's developed more kind of a cult following. And now, to me, when I watch it now, this film has not dated. It's one of the movies. It just gets better with age, and and the whole kind of undertones of the social aspects of it. The satire and the social aspects of it. I mean, it's just as relevant today as it was back in the 80s.
Oh yeah, that's the stuff that I think has only helped this movie age as it has gone on. Is like the social elements and then the satire of everything, of society. Like that's only getting more and more relevant as time goes on. And the movie itself, it's so short. Like overall, like the way it flies by. I don't know what the exact runtime is off the top of my head, but it's probably right around the 90 to 90 minute to 120 minute mark, if I had to guess.
Funny enough, I actually looked last night because I put it on pretty late, and I thought it was 90 minutes, and it's an hour and 46. But I think once you take the credits out at the end, it's about an hour and 40. Maybe just a wee bit over that, but yeah, I agree with you. There's not a wasted scene in this movie.
No, we go right into it. Like the opening of this is the RoboCop logo with that stinger right in the beginning. And then we jump into the news. Like they waste no time, like with opening credits or anything like that. Like we're in this world. We're in old Detroit right away.
Yeah, and I've thought about this over the years. There's like I seen this movie when I was like I must have been about 10 years of age, and I don't understand why I was able to see this movie at 10 years of age because my parents never really let us watch 18s. Maybe they didn't realize it was in the 18s. So Terminator and RoboCop were two of the movies that I watched at a very young age. And thinking about it, there was only 3 movies that used to make me nervous when they came on when I was young. And obviously one of them is the Jaws movies, when the opening starts and you get the nerves, like, And the other one that used to have me on edge of my seat and make me nervous throughout because of the suspense was Reservoir Dogs.
Oh yeah, Reservoir Dogs leaves you tense throughout the entire film.
Yeah, and the third one was RoboCop, because I had this kind of, when that starts and you hear the music start and it comes up RoboCop and it's showing the city, which I believe is actually Dallas. I don't know if that actually is Detroit at the start. Is that right?
No, they filmed it in Dallas. Yeah, it's not even Detroit.
It's not even Detroit. Yeah, I just had this feeling of dread, impending dread of what was to come, and I could never work out what it was. I used to be really nervous. I felt really scared for what was going to happen to Murphy. And over the years, I've realized that kind of primal fear was not having control of your body, not having control of what's going to happen to you, that your life could be taken from you at any moment. Even at a young age, looking back, that was the feeling. And I think that what this film actually scared me in a sense, that the fact that a corporation or a government could take ownership of your body against your will, that kind of scares me about this film.
Yeah, that can be petrifying, and it's funny because like it's weird that this one got you like felt like that, because I probably saw this at around the same age as you. I was about 10 years old, and just like I came to this the same exact way I came to First Blood. except my dad put this movie on. It was like on HBO or something, and he fell asleep on the couch, and I just watched the whole thing like mesmerized by the movie.
Yeah.
Like I was like, what the hell is this? Like this, it just blew me away. Just like everything, the violence of it all, and then of course I've always just had an affinity for 80s movies, and even though this movie like has a very deep meaning to it, it's still very much an 80s action movie at its heart.
Oh yeah, and the whole thing is that the whole slogan of it was the future of law enforcement, and it's kind of like one of those movies as when you watch it, you go, well, what year is this? It doesn't tell you. Which I think is a good thing, because when you get movies like, for example, is it Escape from New York, which says 1998, we're far beyond 1998 now, so the world doesn't go like that. It's like when we talked about Back to the Future 2, 2015. We know that 2015 isn't like that, but this is a movie, as much as you say, is steeped in like the 80s, and the filmmaking techniques are of the 80s. The fact of the matter is that it's very grounded. You still feel as if it could happen in 10 years from now. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's the thing, is that it still feels like it could have. It does, you're right, feel like a moment in time. Yes, it does feel like 80s in tone, but it does feel like it could actually happen. And even the cars that they choose, like to choose those Ford Tauruses right when Ford Tauruses first came out, and like those Fords are very unique looking and only of a certain time. You paint them black and they just look wholly original. The only thing that always stands out to me in this movie is they use that tunnel in so many different movies for the police station, where they go up that like what's it called?
Oh yeah,
in the police station. I've seen it in so many different movies.
Yeah, I can't. Well, can't even think what other films it's been in, but I know what the tunnel you're talking about.
Yeah, where they go up that like ramp and then they're up. I can't remember what the last one I saw it in. It might have even been like The Dark Knight or something like that, where it gets reused so much. I guess it's just a unique looking interior, but it always stands out to me.
But it's also kind of.
It's in Lethal Weapon.
Is it Lethal Weapon? Is it? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of like a plot point as well, or a wee nugget, because when Murphy first drives out of there and the bottom of the car scrapes the turn up the thing, you see it again when RoboCop drives out, so it's a kind of hint it's the same person.
Oh yeah. Well, they always were dropping hints that Murphy and him, are the same person. It's funny to me actually that we were going a little bit ahead of ourselves, kind of bouncing around, but like how Nancy Allen was the only person to like figure out who he was, and they weren't really partners for long, but they just had a connection, and she's just like something about the way he was walking, or I guess maybe because like you don't see anything, and for her to go,
Murphy, it's you.
Yeah, and it was the gun twirl, wasn't it? She didn't really have an inkling until he done the gun twirl, and then she was like, "Oh, hold on a wee second here," and then she was looking at him, and I know we are jumping a wee bit ahead, but when she stops him, it's like it's almost like she can't get him to have a conversation with him, but it's when she has that opportunity, she takes the opportunity to say, Murphy, it's you, because you see her kind of, it's just softly does it. She doesn't kind of like go straight in and go, like, I think you're Alex Murphy, or you Murphy, or blah, blah, blah. You see her saying, hi, I'm such and such, just seeing how he reacts and saying, do you have a name? And then when she sees the OCP guys coming, she looks over his shoulder, and that's when she thinks, I'm going to have to say it now before they get here. And that's when she says, Murphy, it's you.
Yeah, that's the thing, that's like trying to bounce it, like, rail it into his head. And that's because like they're the corporate overlords. They run the police, which is, again, leaning right into what this is satiring, which is even more relevant today, where everything is owned by a corporation. Imagine them owning the police too, and they're able to do this. And it took me numerous times to watching this movie to even realize that the reason why they're sending all these people to that one police station is because that has the highest likelihood of them dying.
I'll bring you to this little paradise. Beats me, man. I think OCP's moving a lot of new guys up here.
So, we want to get somebody in the RoboCop program, send them all there. Eventually, we'll get our man. They signed off on it, when they signed up to be cops.
Yeah, do you know what? I didn't really. I mean, I've seen this movie. I don't know how many times I've seen this movie over the years. 50 times, 60, 80, maybe 100 times. Yeah, it's just so easy to watch. It's so entertaining. But the thing is that I didn't catch on till recently that one of the lines that's dropped in is Bob Morton saying to the old man that we have dropped policemen who we believe are prime candidates into certain areas. I'm paraphrasing, but he says something along those lines. It got me thinking that that's the reason that Murphy was actually transferred to Metro West, because he says at the start, what precinct you're from, or why you transferred over here, and he says, beats the hell out of me, OCP's moving a lot of new guys over here. So it got me thinking that it wasn't just random. Well, it was kind of random Murphy get killed in that fashion, but it wasn't random that he ended up there. It was like he was selected, as you say, to end up in that area because he could potentially become RoboCop. He was one of the cops that they had singled out and said, "This is a guy here that could fit that outfit." So to speak.
And that's how much human beings mean to them. And even when they get him, when he finally gets, mowed down and they bring him in, it's like, we can keep some of this stuff. They're like, no, we're not. We don't save the arm. You said they signed off on it. This is what we need.
Blank his memory anyway.
Well, I think we should lose the arm. What do you think, Johnson?
Well, he signed the release forms when he joined the force.
And that's the only way it's going to happen. He's basically, now he's our property. I think they even say that in the movie, like, he belongs to us now.
Oh yeah, 100%, and that's it. It's like Dick Jones says, your product. Mm-hmm. We can't have our products going against us. And the funny thing is that they've actually brought in a law here recently that if something happens to you, if you pass away here, that your organs will automatically be donated.
Oh really? It's not volunteer anymore?
It's not. You have to opt out rather than opt in. It's automatic, I think, from when you turn 18. So if something happens to you, that your organs will be donated. Oh, and wow. me personally, I don't like the idea of that, because I think if you want to voluntarily do it, then you should sign up to it. Whereas it's the other way about. You have to actually opt out. So this has been a talk for a few years now, and I remember having a discussion about it. And personally, I was kind of like, well, look, that's just the government taking ownership of your body. I understand that it would be there to help other people. I understand all that, but I don't think that, for example, when if say you pass away, that they should be able to come along and say, well, we're going to give his organs away because he or she didn't opt out.
Yeah.
I don't know if your family to have a say after the fact. Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah. No, I mean, here we have the option. Like when you go fill out your license, they ask you, and then, then you can become an organ donor. I'm an organ donor anyway. Like, when I'm dead, I'm dead. I don't care what they do with me personally, but some people do care. So it's, they should have the option. It's weird that you would have to actually do the reverse of what we have to do, where you actually have to go out of your way to do that. And it kind of, making it that way makes it feel like they're going to be pushing, like, they're not going to be using their best efforts to save your life if they know that they need these organs. That's kind of the scary thing in that sense.
Yeah, and it used to be like that. It was only last year, and the letter actually said that make sure you inform a family member of your decisions.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm. So to me, that's scary. As I went back to the start of the pod there not too long ago, when I said about it's scary to think that a government can take ownership of your body, and it's happened.
It's happening. Yeah, I mean, that as things become more scarce, that's exactly what's going to happen. And the more power we give to corporations, it's how you end up in a world like RoboCop, And they show you right in the beginning of this movie what the whole meaning of this movie is about. When they choose to start it off with those commercials and to just show you how desensitized we are with that news opening. How they were just able to shift from a cop being murdered, like, and then move on to like a little funny fluff piece, and like the the news anchors just change their emotion on a dime like that. Yeah, I think it's their class, the way to do that. And one of my funniest things is the first night that RoboCop is on the job, and he goes up to the guy who has the mirror held hostage, and he punches him out the window, and then it cuts to the news reporter, and she's kind of like, RoboCop.
RoboCop. Who is he? What is he?
Where did he come from? I just like all spades and beams, but this is a violent machine, which is basically taking on violent criminals, But as you say, she's trying to make it all fluffy and all, and they have him at the school. The kids are all touching him and thinking he's amazing, But that just encompasses the whole satire of the movie.
Yeah, it's turning the camera back on us, because that's exactly, and now it's 10 times worse. They were talking about that in the 80s. If they only knew what social media was going to be, forget it. We could just jump from a massacre to like something happy in 30 seconds, and people can turn on a dime. But here, even the commercials are funny. Like, I love the commercials when they're talking about the artificial hearts, and they're like, get financing, and you can even get a Yamaha. And I'm like,
a Yamaha? and he says at the end, and remember, we care.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, dead on. I'm sure you do.
Yeah. talking about financing right in the commercial. You care, all right.
Yeah, exactly. It's so good, and even the game like Nukem and things like that. Just reflecting 80s politics as well.
Oh yeah, yeah, and it's perfect, and it's just amazing that like this movie's now what it came out in 1987, so we're moving in
Yeah,
on 40 years on it, and it's still relevant, if not more relevant today. But like the way that Paul Verhoeven, who directed this, kind of combines that and then still makes it a really fun action movies, a very violent one too. Because I know we haven't. That's one thing about this pod that's kind of tough is for us to add on top of that amazing RoboDoc documentary, which is that 4 hour. How long is that? Like 6 hours or something? The whole documentary.
it's 4 episodes, so it's like I think it is close to 5.5 hours.
Yeah,
Some of the episodes are like an hour and 10 or an hour and 20.
and they just
So I'm there
everything.
certain it's yeah.
And
Oh
they
yeah, they touch on everything.
it's going to be hard for us to add on top of everything because they were all there making it. But looking at it from a fan perspective like us and just how much we love this movie, just knowing that Paul Verhoeven wanted this movie to be so violent while trying to get his message across, it's just very unique.
Yeah, and do you know what? You're right. Listen, nobody can add on what they done on that RoboDoc documentary. It was unbelievable. The only thing was that I did rewatch during the week the old making of that was on the original DVD, which came out about 20 years ago, Flesh and Steel, I think, and it's about half an hour long, and they just get to the nitty gritty, so a lot of the stuff in the RoboDoc was covered back then, and yes, some Paul Verhoeven, when he first got the script, was like, this is a piece of crap, this is a piece of rubbish, I'm not going to make this. He threw it down, and it was his wife that actually read it and kind of convinced him to do it. And it's Paul Verhoeven always says himself, it's his commentary on America at that time, with the ultra violence, the guns, the commercials, the commercialism, the corporatism as well, and it's just how he's seen it as a foreigner, as a European man coming to the States. Yeah, I mean he captures that. It's heightened, it's a heightened type of reality, and I think that's what he captures.
It's amazing when you look at it. Where's Paul Verhoeven from? Is I'm not
He's
sure.
he's Dutch. He's from the Netherlands, Holland.
Okay, so he's from the Netherlands, Holland. Okay, so
Yeah.
the thing is weird is that he's coming at it, and I think he captured America perfectly to this very day. And one of my other favorite movies that I've ever seen, that's in my top 10 also, is a movie called Paris, Texas. And that movie is
Right.
directed by Wim Wenders, who is a German director. And somehow he captured America perfectly in that film as well. So it's weird how non-Americans can find a way to capture America better than some American directors. It's almost as if like, their outside perspective lets
Yes.
them, like, they don't have, I guess, the barriers that they can say what exactly they're feeling from an outsider's perspective without feeling the pressure to make it feel almost, I guess, Americana.
Yeah, well, he's looking at it with a fresh pair of eyes, John. It's like everything, when you grow up in a certain environment, you probably don't realize the environment around you because you're so used to it. Do you know what I mean? And he's coming in from a completely different background, a completely different environment, and seeing it in fresh eyes. And it's probably kind of shocked him a wee bit. You know what I mean?
I could only imagine like what he's coming at it from where he comes from, and then seeing like what America is. I would be shocked too, like especially like the very desensitized nature that the 80s became, especially the late 80s. Yeah, it would be very shocking, and he captures it perfectly.
Yeah, he does. And look, I haven't seen any of Verhoeven's films outside of his American films. He was saying in the documentary that in Holland it was the government that funded or financed a lot of the movies, and he says it was a right-wing government for many years, and then a left-wing government came in, and that's when it changed. Which I found strange. He says that they started questioning some of the decisions and saying, well, you can't do this, and why is this happening in the movie? And that's when he thought to himself that he would go to America and start making movies. So it's just like you're saying there, he seemed to be no holds barred then when he came to America. He knew exactly what he wanted, and he wasn't going to let anybody kind of take that away from him when he started making RoboCop.
Oh yeah, and I mean the guy, what he likes, it's weird how he's so thought-provoking, but he also likes a lot of sleazy stuff. I mean, this is the guy who also brought us Total Recall, Basic Instinct, and did he do Showgirls as well?
I think he did, yeah. Now, I haven't seen Showgirls. The only three I've seen of his movies is Total Recall, RoboCop, and Basic Instinct. I haven't seen Starship Troopers, and I haven't seen Showgirls.
Oh, you'll love Starship Troopers. It's almost like a spiritual sequel to RoboCop. It's like very same vein, essentially. You know, kind of like jumping into the internet era of the world. But basically, it's a satire, an over-the-top satire, just in the '90s instead of the '80s.
Right. Yeah. Do you know what? It's been one I've been meaning to check out because I've heard that about it. That it's like you say, it's like a spiritual sequel to RoboCop, and I love RoboCop that much, so I definitely need to check it out. But I mean, you're saying about the sleaziness, you know, when he done Basic Instinct again, pushing barriers. But to me, Basic Instinct is his homage to Hitchcock.
You know what? If you look at, that's honestly a great point. There's actually like lighting in the movie, even though it's color, that you could see came right from Hitchcock.
There's a lot made of the sex in it, but it's the sensual side of it, the seduction side of it, the obsession side of it. I mean, he filmed it in San Francisco where Vertigo was made, and then you have Jerry Goldsmith's score, which is very Bernard Herrmann.
And I think you've actually a long time ago commented that you'd want to be Michael Douglas from Basic Instinct, right?
I did say that, didn't I? Yeah, it was the question. Yes, the question was, if you could be one character from one movie, who would it be? And I said Michael Douglas from Basic Instinct. That's right. I forgot about that.
He's a lucky guy.
He is, yeah. Well, okay, I'll stand by that. Basic Instinct rather than Fatal Attraction. I think that not Fatal Attraction or Falling Down. Sometimes I feel like Michael Douglas and Falling Down, to be honest with you.
Oh man, that's speaking of movies that have aged great. That movie makes a lot more sense when you hit your 30s.
Yeah, definitely 100% it does.
You know, you start to be like, you know what, Michael Douglas, not that crazy in Falling Down.
No, he had a lot of valid points in that movie. You know, I love the line in that movie. I know we're going off topic here, but I love the line in that movie when he says the Robert Duvall. He says to Robert Duvall,
I'm the bad guy?
Yeah.
Oh, that was the line I always think of too, like where he can't believe that he's the bad guy. He's like bewildered by it.
he's yeah, and sometimes I feel like that. Sometimes I sit and I go, I'm the bad guy, really?
You know, it's because like we all eventually just become like, honestly, we turn into like just like very cynical people, and we start to get the realization what the world really is, and you're like, man, like I understand why people end up the way they do. It starts to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, you realize why you're getting shafted.
Yeah, the world's not there for the regular person.
Yeah, you know, you work your whole life, you pay your taxes, you know, you do the right thing, and they just continue to shaft the worker, and that's basically it. Do you know what I mean? The hard-working, everyday person, they continue to shaft them, and then you end up feeling like Michael Douglas in Falling Down.
Just all he wanted was a good breakfast, man. That's it. It wasn't that hard.
All he wanted to do was see it. All he wanted to see was his daughter.
Yeah, it seems so simple, but
Mm-hmm.
you know what? Ends up being a horrible day. But yeah, I mean, going back to Paul Verhoeven, it's just weird the differences in the movies that he's made and how they all do kind of, even like that, has like such a deep meaning and a lot of understanding of film behind it. But yet people will point to this movie and go, oh, it's just an over-the-top 80s action movie with just sleazy and over-the-top violence when it's got a lot more to say.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and I think that's why I love it. And look, the difference between this and say just a robot movie or a cyborg movie with a lot of violence is that it's got heart. You know, it goes back to what we were saying about Alien, about having a soul. And we talked about this in our last pod, John. We were saying about it. It dawned on me when I was watching RoboCop again. I was like, oh, we're talking about this in Alien, about what does it mean to be human. And this is a perfect example, because this is why I think this movie has endured the test of time. Apart from the special effects are brilliant and the pacing and the story, it's the heart of Murphy realizing who he used to be. That's the emotional anchor of this movie.
It is. It's coming back to him, and the fact that, like, despite the fact they tried to erase everything from him and just make him a mindless person that, you know, yes, it's a human being in the center, but he's just supposed to be a cyborg. You know, the mind there is just supposed to control the movements, that's it, and do the job that they want him to do. But because he's a human, that's what separates him from Ed 209, is that he actually has the soul inside of him, and no matter what, it's going to come out.
And I love that shot as well, where when he's fighting Ed 209 and when he knocks him down and he looks up at his helmet is smashed to the wee glass part and you see his eye, and then you hear the music
the score is so good for this, especially the
I love the score.
which feels very much like a superhero. And they try and shoot him
Yeah.
like a superhero in a lot of scenes where, like, the lighting behind him when he breaks into that cocaine warehouse, like, you know, the lighting behind
Yeah.
him. And then later when he's, like, you know, standing in front of, when we get the shadow of him just shining on the criminals who are trying to rape that girl. Like, that's a
Yeah.
superhero's entrance.
Yeah, and this score, since we've mentioned it, well, I'm going to touch on the score now then. This score is one of my favourite scores of all time. I absolutely love the RoboCop score. And again, there's so much going on. You have the kind of like pumped up kind of action music when the likes of Murphy and Lewis take on Boddicker's gang at the start when they're shooting up the van. And then you also have the RoboCop theme, which is very much like a superhero theme. But you also have this kind of metallic kind of sound, mechanical sound as well going on in the background.
Almost
Yeah.
like heavy machinery, like slamming on metal, it sounds like almost at all times.
Yeah, and then once Murphy's humanity is starting to come back, you have the more orchestral type of music that comes through, which represents the human side when he visits his home. Yeah, and it's really sad. And then later on, one of my favorite scenes as well is when he first takes his helmet off, you know, and he says, "You may not like what you're going to see," and he takes it off. And it's almost like a lullaby. You know, it's almost like a child like music, and you can just feel this sadness as well. And I like when he's kind of looking at the mirror and he's kind of touching at his face, and then she says, "It's really good to see you, Murphy." And he just drops the mirror, and it's almost like he realizes she's saying it's really good to see you, Murphy, as if who's Murphy? What is Murphy? He's gone, you know. And then that's when he speaks to him about himself in the third person. He says, "Murphy had a wife and son. What happened? What happened to them?" And then he just asks to be left alone. Absolutely amazing scene. So you have all these elements, and I think of the score underpins that of these moments in the movie.
Oh yeah, I love the score. Now you're right. I didn't even like think about that, but it does have a lot of those warm moments in the score. I really think the score accompanies all those scenes perfectly, and you know it's mixed well, so you always hear it underneath whatever's going on. Helps to move the movie along to keep that quick pace because, like we said, hour 46 minutes. It's amazing the amount of time that they actually can spend developing these characters despite being so fast. You know, movies nowadays, we need 3.5 hours to like develop everyone, but you know, all the characters in this movie feel developed. Murphy feels like a real character despite the fact that he ends up being a cyborg in the middle of this movie, and he has to eventually find his humanity again.
Yeah, and as I said earlier, there's not a wasted scene. Each scene just moves the plot along. As say, you're saying as well about how well the score works as well. My favorite piece of the score is the final showdown, Boddicker's gang.
Cut him off! Come on! Go on! Cut him off!
In the steel mill. It's so good. When they come in and he throws, I think it's actually the mirror he throws, isn't it? I can't remember now, but he throws a piece of metal down and they them guns, I laugh the way they fire them and their clothes and all is blowing back. I mean, they can't even aim these things, you know?
My God. I wanted to talk to you about that. I was waiting to get to all that silly stuff because like the gun is shaped like a sniper rifle, but yet somehow it like blows them back and it shoots this huge missile that can explode anything, no matter what it hits. It's an explosion that doesn't even make any sense. Like, they don't have to hit it in the gas tank. When they kill that one guy up top who gets all excited that he dropped the metal on the RoboCop and then he gets shot, it's just like a huge explosion. I'm like, I don't think those guns would make that.
Cobra assault rifles. I do believe that they were modified sniper rifles.
That's what they look like.
Yeah, they're sniper rifles and they were modified. And as I say, but it's when he throws it down and they fire them, and then you see Clarence going, "Ah, shit," and then you hear him saying, "Looking for me," and then when he just takes Joe out. I love that scene because when they turn around and fire back. And Clarence says, cut him off, go, go, go. And you see him walk past with a gun like this, just kind of walking past. And the look he gives, that look, that scowl he gives him, it's just like, go on, Robo. absolutely. But that whole scene there, from there right through to when he kills Clarence, and the score and the music is outstanding. And you have the likes of Emil and the Toxic Waste as well.
Oh my god, there's so many great and over-the-top violent deaths in this movie. But, again, another thing that's over-the-top, commenting on our world, the car, the 6000 SUX, 6000 sucks.
6000 sucks, yeah. Yeah, and that's what I like too, because the gang in this, like, we have to talk about Clarence Boddicker's gang.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
To me, Clarence Boddicker is one of the best bad guys of all time. Like, and I, yeah, exactly. And to me, he was the bad guy that made wearing glasses cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's one thing I always found weird about him. First of all, it's Kurtwood Smith, and I saw him first as Red Foreman in that 70s show.
Get under there. You're going to get a spider the size of my foot in your ass.
So that I saw that before I ever saw RoboCop. So then when I saw RoboCop and I saw Kurtwood Smith and he's got the glasses on, the guy looks like an accountant, but he is the most ruthless, violent criminal out there. He's just a stone cold murderer who just, like, the way he talks, you would think he's like a big muscle bound guy.
Take a look at my face, Dick.
But he just looks like a regular guy who just loves guns.
Ooh, guns.
And loves cocaine and loves killing people. Hates cops.
Yeah. and know why he hates cops?
Because they don't like him, right?
Because cops don't like me. Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing about him, is that, like you say, he's like a school teacher or something. And I knew, John, I knew you were going to say I knew him as from that 70s show, because your age, because you're a wee bit younger than me. But no, I've always known him as Clarence Boddicker. He does everything with a smile and a scowl and a laugh. And you're saying about the 6000 SUX, and that's when I love when Joe pulls up in the car and he says, I got out of prison, look what I found, waiting for me, a brand new 6000 SUX. And he says to Clarence, what do you think, Clarence? And Clarence just takes the gun out and goes, what's this? And blows it up and goes, how's your car, Joe? And we're like, but it's absolutely brilliant. And I actually was listening to a review about RoboCop recently, and someone says that they were actually praising Kurtwood Smith's performance, but this says that he channeled his inner Jack Nicholson. And when I was watching it again last night, I was going, oh, fuck, yeah, I can see that. I can see there's a wee bit of Jack Nicholson in there,
Yeah,
but
I never saw Kurtwood Smith ever do anything like this again, or like anything like this before. Like, it's very, I could see Jack Nicholson with that, but I don't know. I love his energy that he brings to it, and all the crazy stuff he actually brings to the role, and how he acts, and it's over the top, chewing scenery. A lot of people like to do that, but I love it. I just love it. He's playing that in the entire time. Even when he like goes to the office to see Dick Jones, and like he's got that suit on that's like kind of it's a little bit baggy. It's like the 80s.
It's very 80s.
His wife's in the office.
That's right.
He comes in there and he's like, look at my face, Dick. Because his name's Richard. I love that. And then at the end of the scene, they bookmark, and he finally comes back around. He's like, Richard.
Yeah, but before he goes in, I like the way he says to the girl on reception. He says, "Hi," and he has her nameplate and says, "Barbara." Says, "I got some free time of this. Maybe you can fit me in." He puts his chewing gum on it, But the whole thing I don't get about this part of the movie, right? Is that in the very first scene of the movie, they're telling us that Clarence Boddicker, unofficial crime boss of old Detroit, he's wanted for the murder and connection of so many police officers. Later on in the movie, how does he get out of prison, right? If he's wanted for all these murders. Now, okay, fair enough, we can say the place is corrupt and Dick Jones pulled a few strings. But then he goes to Dick Jones's office and has a meeting with him in his office. How can you get away with it?
That's my biggest flaw with this entire movie as well, is that like he is the biggest criminal in old Detroit. They bring it up right in the opening of the movie, and like he literally never ever tries to hide. Like, yes, his main place is a steel mill, an abandoned steel mill, but that's got to be taking up a pretty big chunk of land, and nobody has ever realized that that's where they're all hiding. But he's just walking around like there's no problem. Like, even when he gets arrested, and he's like, he's a cop killer. I love that, by the way. But like, yeah, he's like back out on the street like in a few minutes, and yeah, I believe we're supposed to believe that they're all corrupted. But, like, if I lived in that city and Clarence Boddicker's killed all these cops and he's just walking into OCP's building, like, it's nothing. Like, he's not even worried about it.
Yeah, I just found that bizarre. But look, the movie's that good, you can kind of forgive that plot hole. But it was something that dawned on me recently watching it. I was like, I've never caught on to this. I was like, how come he just goes straight to his office? I can understand that maybe there was a few strings pulled to get him out of prison. Do you know what I mean? Like, especially if somebody like Dick Jones is paying for a high powered lawyer to get him out for a while, maybe a trial or something. I don't know, but at the end of the day, Emil gets out of prison as well. He gets Emil out and he gets Joe out because they both mentioned about getting out of prison. They were both in prison because Joe was caught at the same time. He wasn't killed in the cocaine factory, and Emil was caught by RoboCop. I'm not sure what happened to the other guy. I can't remember his name. The Ray Wise character, because RoboCop, you see him go in and pull him out of the disco, but he says that's talk.
Let's talk.
So I don't know if he arrested him, because he could he have arrested him for anything? You know what I mean? At that stage, I don't know. But yeah, I don't understand why he tries to kick him in the groin.
You would think, right? But that guy seemed like the dumbest of all of them, honestly. That guy.
Yeah.
The rest of them at least seemed like they knew it was kind of going. The one guy, the one balding guy who ends up shooting up the gas station, which is another big RoboCop moment. But him walking with the fire exploding behind him, which watching it this time on 4K Blu-ray, I never noticed how much of a green screen that was. It makes sense, but I never realized.
Are you sure it's a green screen?
I'm not 100% sure. It could just might just give off a weird looking thing. Oh, because they said it was.
I thought it was real.
It might be real, but they might have having RoboCop walking in front of it.
Okay.
While it's exploding. I think they might have shot it and then projected it behind him when they were showing him shooting, just so that there's no real fire behind him to get that shot, especially if they had to do multiple takes.
Maybe there was something about that. I can't remember. It was in the documentary about the messed it up. It was too big or something.
Oh,
they couldn't get it in the whole. They couldn't get it in the whole frame. There was something about that. So maybe they did go back and do some composite shots afterwards or something with a green screen or something like that, John. So you could well be right. But you're right. It does look a wee bit weird. But I never thought about it being a green screen. I thought it was maybe just because of the way the explosion was.
Well, the explosion itself, without RoboCop in it, looks normal. It's just when he's walking away shooting at the motorcycle and the explosions behind him. But I love that scene too. You some kind of college boy or something?
You a college boy or something? Huh?
Yeah, that's right. And even we just said about the other character. How can I remember his name? The Ray Wise character. I can't even think of it now. But even him, he ratted them out that they were in the cocaine factory. Yeah. So because Robo went in and says, let's talk. He wasn't there. He was the only one that wasn't there. No one works that out. He ratted them out, right? And also as well, his best line in the whole movie is when Emil grabs him when he's after coming out of toxic waste and says, it says, help me, and he's like, get off me, man.
Don't touch me, man.
I can't believe that guy was even able to walk. His skin's falling off and everything. Oh my god! And then he gets blasted by the car as if it's not even, as if it wasn't enough.
I think that's class. When you see Clarence is watching who's on his tail, but when he turns back, there he is, and it's too late. And see the scream out of Clarence when he hits him. He's like, ah! And you just see the head roll over the top of the car.
Oh my god! And the amount of blood that gets on the windshield, because the violence in this movie, just Murphy's death alone, which, that is just over the top. And I don't think there's any way this movie has a problem actually letting people die, because first of all, he'd be dead before they even put the bullet in his head. But even when they put the bullet in his head, they drag him to the hospital and they're giving him surgery. I'm like, there is no way.
Yeah, loss of blood for a start, and that's the thing about this gang too. I was saying about how good Clarence is and his gang as a whole. They're really bad, mean-spirited, evil guys, but they're doing it with glee the whole time and laughing and joking, and that's what makes them so likable, if you could say. These scumbags.
They're so over the top, everything in the movie, the violence, the criminals, it's so over the top that, you're not looking at it. Maybe that's why you were able to watch it so young, and I saw it so young, is everything's kind of lighthearted, even though it's brutal and over the top, and people die, but the way they do it with the score and everything, it kind of feels a little lighthearted.
Comic bookish.
Yes.
As you were saying about Murphy's death, it's horrific. There's the two things in this movie after all these years from watching RoboCop. I mean, I'm 42 now, so I've been watching RoboCop for 32 years. I mean, I don't mean like every weekend, you know what I mean? I've been watching it a long time. Murphy's death and the toxic waste death still makes me shudder. Murphy's because of just the torture. And the toxic waste, just because, even though he's a really bad guy and he deserves it, but could you imagine if that happened to you?
And then the way he's like trying to like catch his breath, he's like, like
it's the breathing and the walking. Like he's, I mean, there's nothing you can do to fix you there. You're dead. You're just going through a slow, painful death. Exactly. Being hit by the car was probably the best thing that ever happened to him.
Oh yeah, because it was inevitable. What are they gonna do for you? Like you're covered in acid. Like it's
help me, man.
Yeah.
It's like nothing you can do. And I just say yes, Murphy. And one thing I noticed last night, and it's just what I would say, because you watch a movie for so many years, John, and certain movies you just fire on, and you, because you've seen them so many times, you don't pay attention as well as maybe you would if it was a new movie you're watching. So last night I'm sitting and I'm watching it because I'm doing it for the pod and I'm pretty tired and I'm like, I'm really intently watching this. And you know something which I totally forgot? Do you remember when Murphy goes into the steel mill at the start and Emil's sitting there with your man? And again, it's the black humor as well in this movie is brilliant, and I think Verhoeven does it just as well as Hitchcock done it. And he says about Emil goes to smoke and he says, yeah, you ought to give that up. And he's like, why do you want to live forever? And he's kind of like, those things will kill you, you know. And then the next 2 minutes later, he's dead.
Yeah.
Right? 2 minutes later, he's dead. But the thing is that I thought to myself while I was watching it last night when Murphy came in, I was like, where is he? Is he still on the ground, dead? And right enough, you could see him. He's still lying there in the background, dead. But nobody else acknowledges him. Yeah. Nobody else comes in. Clarence doesn't come in and go, oh, they've killed such and such. You know, oh, how dare you, Murphy? You know, look what you've done. We're going to kill you for that. Nobody even acknowledges that he's lying dead. But you see him in the background, still lying there, dead. The whole time. No, they don't care. Which brings me on to Bob. They don't care. Or Bobby. They don't care about Bobby. Can you fly, Bobby?
Can you fly, Bobby?
Clarence, no!
Oh my god, that is great. That's how we're introduced to them. And I love that scene too, when they're just driving on the highway and like they're hanging out the window. But yeah, can you fly, Bobby? Pushes him out. Because like that's how little he cares. But it's not even just them. We see how little they care about each other. But when we go to OCP and when Dick Jones pitches Ed 209, he wants to do the test. And, you know, it's like point the gun at him. And then like Ed 2, you got 10 seconds to comply. And then this guy gets destroyed. I mean, like 30 bullets in him at least. And I mean, the squibs must have hurt like hell. But like, and then I laugh at this every time. Me and Faith, every time we watch this, because, you know, someone's like, get a medic. Like, don't touch him. Yes. Like, they're all like, I'm like,
Somebody want to call a goddamn paramedic? Let's go, Johnson. You pull a plug on his thing. Don't touch him!
for what? Again, like, he's not. And then the boss is sitting there, the guy from Halloween 3. I always forget what his name is.
Sorry, the actor's Dano Hallery. He's an Irishman, yeah. But I think in the movie, he's just he's credited as the old man. That's it. Yeah.
And he's just sitting there like this. A guy's dead in his office, and he's like, Dick, I am very disappointed in you. And he's like, it's just a temporary glitch. He's like, you call this a glitch? That's what I'd be thinking too. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, but everybody always misses the fact that he's not saying you call this a glitch because the guy was killed. He goes on to say, your temporary glitch has cost us $50 million in interest payments alone. He's thinking about the money.
Yeah, well, this guy who works for him is literally dead in that office. Like, he's not even worried about, like, what, a lawsuit or nothing? That's just how little they worry about this kind of thing. That guy just went in there. Because even in the elevator, it's like, tough about what happened, or whatever his name was. He's like, yeah. Kenny, that's life in the big city. Like, you know, like, that's it.
No, nobody cares about anybody. And it's the same with Bobby. You think to yourself, because he burnt the money, remember? And Clarence is like, you burnt the fucking money. So he's quite happy to throw him out. You deserve it because of what you done to the money. But you're right. The actual corporation, the corporate world is no different than the criminal world, and I think that's what they're saying. It's the parallels, you know. And even when Ed 209 starts to malfunction, and he realizes and he starts running back and forward, they're pushing him away. You know, and I love how you see Dick Jones kind of move the one way, and then Dick Jones runs back up again to get out of the way himself. You know, and and they don't care. It's And I think the writer said that that was kind of like a play on yuppies of the 80s saying that they were killers. Only in this movie that they were doing it for real, and that was kind of the artistic license they took with that they were actually killing each other. And it's like when Clarence goes to kill Bob Morton, and when he puts the CD in, which was ahead of its time, puts the wee DVD in, and you see Dick Jones saying, "I guess you're on your knees right now, begging for your life."
I love that, by the way. How he's so Dick Jones, ruthless.
Yeah, he's so good, and I love that because you hear all this stuff about Dick Jones and all. You hear Kenny at the start saying, "Don't mess with Jones. I heard he's a real shark. He'll make sushi out of you." And Bob Morton's like, "Who asked you, twerp?" You know. But you hear this about the toilet scene as well, where you hear people saying it all about, "Oh, you know, you don't want to mess with Dick Jones," and he's like, "Are we talking about the same Dick Jones?" So you know, he's got this killer rap, but it's just a smokescreen, and then you actually do see the real side of Dick Jones.
He will bury anybody for himself. He even like the way he's like he's a sweet old man, but he ain't gonna be around forever because he's like, I knew my place, you don't know yours. Once he's gone, you know, I'll take care. But he doesn't even wait. He's like, you're gone now.
No, I think what happened in the bathroom, that was the final straw for him. I think he was just biding his time. He said to him as well about you may hope that machine doesn't mess up on you. Yeah, well, one thing I wanted to say as well funny enough about this movie, the way it drops hints as well, and I only noticed this again recently after watching it again after all these years. At the very start, we're in the boardroom. Dick Jones says, "Good business is where you find it," and later on, Clarence Boddicker says to the Italian mob boss in the cocaine factory,
Think about it, chum. Good business is where you find it.
you know, them two are pretty much two sides of the same coin. You know, they've obviously somebody's coined it, whether it was Clarence coined it or Dick Jones coined it. They're both saying it, so you know they're signing off the same hymn sheet. They're just doing different businesses.
They're trying to show you the difference between blue collar and white collar crime. How at the end of the day, it's still crime. You know, we could write it off as like, you know, people at the end of the day, like, you might not directly kill somebody, but you've indirectly killed somebody. You know, Clarence Boddicker might shoot somebody in the head, but you're sending cops to go die to fuel your program to just make money. It's not about keeping the crime down. You say it is, but it's not about that. It's about the money at the end of the day. That's why you want Delta City.
Oh no! Listen, it's all a scam. It's all a ploy. It's like he says, you know, Ed 209. You know, who cares if it worked? It's just all about benefiting himself and making himself look better. And at the end of the day, it's basically Dick Jones is creating a lot of that. Bob Morton, his project RoboCop was actually, it was working. He was cleaning up the crime. So if Robo had cleaned up the crime, then there was no need for Dick Jones. There was no need for Clarence Boddicker. By that stage, he didn't need Clarence Boddicker anymore because Robo was going to clean him up. It was going to clean it up for the old man to start Delta City. And that's what I find as well, again, funny about this movie. There's RoboCop goes into a cocaine factory and cleans it out. But the previous scene, who's sitting doing cocaine in his own home? Bob Morton.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the contradiction.
They love the cocaine, all of them. Oh, man. But that's a great Clarence Boddicker scene, too. In the cocaine factory, he has one of my favorite lines. When he bangs on the table, he's like, guns, guns, guns. And then he dips his fingers in the wine. I love that.
I love that as well, where he says, I don't want to fuck you, Sal. And he put his fingers in the wine. But I think it was the Robo documentary where the guy that plays Sal says it wasn't scripted that he would then lift the wine and drink it.
Yeah.
I think, and they're certain, he says, yeah, I don't even know if it was scripted that he put his fingers in, but he thought to himself, he put his fingers in, he says, well, I'm just going to show him that I'm meaner than him. I don't care if he put his fingers in my wine. I'm going to drink it.
Yeah. I mean, these guys are the business, how they pull guns out at each other like that. I'm like, you know, the different life. I couldn't do that. Clarence is in this element. He's fine with it. He's like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah, and he says, the Tigers are playing tonight.
I never miss a game.
I love that.
I love all his lines. It's brilliant. And to me, that has to be, apart from the ending scene, that whole set piece at the end, that has to be my favorite scene, is the cocaine factory bust. Because if we ever do Terminator, John, that is what RoboCop was built for. He was built to go into there. It just shows you what RoboCop can do. He was built to go into that factory, and if they didn't comply, he's taking you out. And with the music and that Auto 9 going off and taking people out over the top, by the way, is amazing. And I just love how Joe gets hit with the gun, and when he gets knocked over the rail, and you just hear him going, ah!
I mean, it's amazing that, again, they all, a lot of them recover enough to be in the end sequence, but he's just taking them all out. He's there for Clarence, though. And I actually love how he's just beating the shit out of Clarence, and then, like, how it wasn't me.
Anything you say may be used against you. It's Dick
It goes through the glass.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that whole scene.
Yeah, he's like, whoa, wait a minute. There's another guy, Dick Jones. But you're right, he's there for. He doesn't want to kill Clarence quick. He doesn't want to shoot him because he puts his gun away. Clarence is such a good shot. Clarence hits him with a good shot at the back of the head, and then remember when he hits him, and then he kind of turns and he puts the gun away. And bad luck for Clarence, he jumps through a plasterboard roof like a fool.
Yeah. I mean, Clarence thought he had the upper. That's the thing. He starts backing down right away. When Clarence is confident, he always is very easygoing. He's running his mouth. But when he's like, wait a second, like when he thinks he's about to actually die, he backs down, throwing Dick Jones right under the bus. This is the guy who funds you. Even though Dick Jones kind of forgives him in the end. Like, he's like, all right, well, now you got to take care of this. That's why he sends him on the mission with his guys, gives him the weapons and everything like that. Which, again, it just all goes so fast. How, like, he's a hero, and then they're all shooting him in the police station, which is another great scene. It's just lit so well.
Yeah, but Dick Jones as well says to Clarence on the phone, he says something about, you really spilled your guts. He says he's recorded every word you said. His memory is usable as evidence, but then later on, or admissible as evidence or whatever. And he said, but later on, he says to Robo, I know it's only a movie and we had to do it just to tidy everything up, but he says to Robo to kill Bob Morton because he made a mistake. And then that's recorded.
Which, I guess that finger thing works as a key because we see it a couple times, like early in the station when he's looking up, and then at the very end to show everybody that Dick Jones did that when he fires him, which is one of the other flaws of this movie, is the very end, how long Dick Jones's arms are when he goes out the window.
He's out the window. Well, the only thing about that is that, surely, like, right, if you're an employee of a company, right, you're on their payroll, especially if in the future, right, you'll be on their database, so bank account details be on there. I think you call it national security number, isn't it? We call it national insurance number. So just saying you're fired, he wouldn't be an ex-employee right away. They would have to do the paperwork. That's another flaw. Could you imagine RoboCop waiting? Hold on, I can't shoot him yet. You have to do the paperwork.
He's like sitting in the lobby and like one of the chairs, just waiting for him to be finally terminated. And he's like, I'll walk him out.
as soon as he walks out the door, then he shoots him.
Like he did to Ed 209, because that's a funny scene too. How he just takes the gun out and Ed 209's legs go back and forth until they finally fall over.
Yeah, when he comes out with a Cobra assault cannon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pulls it out of the car and just shoots him in the lobby. I got an Ed 209 guarding it like it's gonna work.
Yeah, you actually see, and that's the thing as well. I know we're jumping about here, but it's just all these wee bits and pieces are coming back, which I love it. But so funny about this movie and why it's rewatchable. It's kind of like, the boardroom and stuff, and you see Dick Jones up there, and he's like, we gotta have Ed 209s throughout the city by the end of the week. I've got one that's now outside guarding the building. But if you look at Johnson, you see Johnson kind of like looking up as if really, he's just lost his mate Bob Morton, and this is where he is now. And I love that scene earlier as well on the first boardroom when Kenny gets killed, and as the old man says, old Detroit has a cancer, and we're gonna clear up crime within so many days, and he just starts clapping. Yes.
Yeah, I know.
Yes.
He's trying to get everyone to go.
Yeah. Nobody else is clapping, and you see everybody just kind of look at him like, no. And then they all start going.
I would hate Bob Morton. I would absolutely hate that guy if I worked with him. He's just clearly the most selfish person looking out for himself. I mean, not that they all aren't, but he really is. Like, just immediately kissing the boss's ass the second they're in their room.
Yeah, and then one of his mates or whatever gets killed, and he's just like, I don't care, I got the job now, type of thing. Yeah, tough. That's life in the big city. I've got the gig now. Who cares? He got the gig because his mate get killed.
Yeah, exactly. He's not even worried. Exactly. That helped him get the job that he wanted to get. And honestly, it was a good idea. RoboCop was definitely a better idea than Ed 209.
Yes.
But, he was just so cocky and confident about it, and he didn't care about it. Because once they get to the police station, and the way he's just treating all the cops there, big corporate overlords treating the minions like shit, it's just right there to their face. But, my God. He's like, then you just don't feel, you're like, okay, good idea, but you're just an asshole.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say about Nancy Allen's boss. I can't remember his name.
He needs a car.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he turns it. He says, "Forget about it, kid. This guy's a serious asshole."
Yeah. And what do you think of
Yeah.
Nancy Allen in this movie? Because I am not actually the biggest Nancy Allen fan. I think this is her best movie, even better than I always thought that she was. I know she was married to Brian De Palma, but I didn't love her in Blowout.
Do you know, I haven't seen Blowout. I've seen Dress to Kill. I've seen Carrie. What else have I seen her in? I think I've only seen her in RoboCop. The RoboCop movies then after that. I can't think of anything else I've seen her in. She may be in something else. I'm just trying to think. But what do I think of her as an actress, or what do I think of her in RoboCop?
Well, both. Like I think she's amazing in RoboCop. I never just loved her really in anything else but RoboCop.
I think she's a decent actress. You know what I mean? But in RoboCop, it could be her best role. It's her more grounded role because I think in Dress to Kill, she kind of plays a wee bit of a dipsy kind of. She plays a hooker, doesn't she? Dipsy hooker. And then in Carrie, she's playing like a dipsy teenager. So
well, that's the thing. And then when you get to Blowout, she kind of plays like this dipsy woman. Like, and I'm always like, that's how she always is kind of cast. And then in this movie, she's very confident and smart. And I'm like, it just feels different than everything else.
Yes, and I think that a lot of that has to do with the dog's paws. A lot of that has to do with Paul Verhoeven's characterization that he advised her to do. Like he told her to get a haircut, shorten her hair. She got a cut, and he says shorter. He told her to put weight on, so she's very kind of boyish, but she's still got a femininity about her. So she's very kind of. She's not very girly, like we said about. She's very plays the hooker in Dress to Kill, and she plays the very dipsy girl in Carrie. So she's moved away from that. But I think, look, I really like her in this movie. She serves a great purpose to the movie. She kind of is, in a lot of ways, the audience.
Yeah.
When you think about it, yeah, she's the key that unlocks Murphy's memory as well. Now, you know, there's other things going on in Murphy's head before that, but she's the one to me that unlocks it by saying you're Murphy, and so that he's able to go in and look up, well, who's Alex Murphy, and where does he live? And then that's where all these memories start flooding back. And then she's the one that actually, for better, she saves him from the gang when they are actually. Sorry, not the gang, from the police when they're shooting him up. She saves him, brings him to the old steel mill, and she is then able to give exposition about where his wife is now. And I love how when the gang turns up at the steel mill, he becomes very protective of her and says, like, you know, you should get out of here now. And she's like, no way, we're partners. And he says, get the car. To me, that's like him getting her out of the way. Go get the car. Do you know what I mean? And it's not on a sexist type of way. He's being a protector. He doesn't want her to die. He knows these guys mean business and they're a serious threat, and he's not in top condition, and that it could be the end of him, I think. And one thing about that scene as well, John, is what I like before that is when she brings the baby food, she brings the gun. I like to know how the gun get back to the police station. Wonder did the police come and take it out of Jones's office?
I was gonna say I'm not exactly entirely sure of that, but his gun is awesome.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I actually have a resin replica of that gun.
Do you really?
So yeah,
that's awesome.
yeah,
I'm jealous.
yeah, but yeah, but I boxed it away. It's in the attic along with the Terminator arm. I must get it out and put it up somewhere. I'll have to show you. But yeah, so she brings the gun, she brings the drill, she brings the baby food, and she's lying sleeping. It's like the early hours of the morning when the gang's coming to the steel mill, and you see him walking off screen, and then there's a gunshot. Do you ever think that he's committed suicide?
I never thought about that, actually, but I guess that would make sense when you really think about it. Does he want to stay being what he is? That would make a lot of sense, but no, that never crossed my mind.
Well, I kind of thought to myself that was the misdirection they were going for, because it wasn't that, it was his targeting system was off, so he missed the baby food. Did you see him setting it up, and then he walks off screen, and you know, and then the echo, and she gets up and looks, and then I'm sitting thinking, you know, is that a misdirection? Did he kill himself, right? But obviously, we've seen the movie that many times. We know his targeting system is off. And then she gets up and she stands by her. Do you want help with your targeting system? And he says, yes. And there's a softness in his voice. You notice that his voice changes. You know,
it's a little more direct. It's a little more like, you know, looser, I would say.
Looser. And when she stands behind him, it's very soft. And I always feel as if there's a lot of sexual tension there. And I think and this is how great the acting is from Peter Weller in this scene. You know, he's so good in this movie. I think that he's acknowledging that it's feelings. Again, we'll go back to the AI and the robot and Ice. It's feelings that he doesn't understand because he's not a human anymore. You know, he's as Ed Newmar said himself, who wrote RoboCop, he's his own creation. You know, he's a Frankenstein. And I do feel as if they, like you said earlier in the pod, that there's something going on there between them. It's a bit weird. And there's also more misdirection, I think, from Verhoeven to do with Murphy's wife. That flashback of I've really got to tell you something. I've really got to tell you something. And then eventually it's just
I really have to tell you something. I love you.
so there's that kind of thought process before you see that of why is he in Metro South? Why did he leave his homeland or his house? Is there something more going on? Is his marriage on the rocks? And there does seem to be a wee bit of sexual tension between him and Nancy Allen before he gets shot up, and then that kind of comes back again in the steel mill scene.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's funny you said that because when he's talking about he's talking about his kid, he never talks about his wife. And when he asks about his wife, he's like, he never says me. He said, didn't Murphy have a wife and kid? So he doesn't even think about that. But early in the movie, when he does the TJ Lancer thing, he doesn't talk about his wife. He only talks about his kid to, what's her name? He never actually brings her up.
Yeah, exactly. To me, the talking in the third person is, like I said earlier, is that he is an acknowledgement that Murphy's dead,
Yeah, he
it
doesn't
means
use
to
his
be
name till the very end. He's like, that's the very last line. He's like, what's your name, son? And he's like, Murphy. That's finally him acknowledging that's him again.
Yes, because he probably at that stage of the movie, even though it's late on in the movie, he still hasn't reconciled with who he is or knows who he is. And I think a lot of that comes back in the last scene. And saying about Clarence earlier, I wanted to say about how villainous is. He's just so smart as a villain too. And I just love that when he shoots Nancy Allen and he says there, bye-bye, baby. And then you hear, I love that, bye-bye, baby. And then you hear Robo come around the corner and he's like, Clarence!
Bye-bye, baby. Clarence!
And he turns, but he sees Ray Ways running across. Leon, that's what you call him, Leon. Sees him running across, and he catches on. He's like, he's going to, and he drops, throws the gun, spits the gun out, and says, okay, you've got me. He thinks he's going to react, and when he says, yeah, I'm not arresting you anymore, and he's like, oh, come on, stop being cute, don't take this personal. but you always kind of crosses my mind, does Clarence know who he is?
The only person that realized was that one guy who's like, we killed you, and then they keep playing it back. I don't know if Clarence ever realized. I feel like Clarence's ego is too big for him to realize that's another cop he killed. I don't think he memorizes or remembers every single cop he's killed.
I totally agree. Yeah, I think he doesn't really know that's him, because he goes to him like, come on, you're kind of taking this personal.
I love that. You're taking this a little personal, aren't you? Like,
taking this a little personal. It could be that he's having a joke again, like, oh yeah, like the Joker says in Batman, and he says to him, I killed you, you killed me. How childish can you get? But to me, sometimes I go, no, he doesn't know that's Murphy. He just thinks that RoboCop's taking it personal because they're criminals and he's a cop.
Yeah, he doesn't even get it. He's like, come on, man, like, this is what I do and this is what you do. Why are you getting so upset about this? Not realizing he murdered him.
Yeah, exactly. And this is I just on that subject, I just love how RoboCop looks. That's my favorite look of RoboCop, when he's got the helmet off and the head is exposed, and the makeup in the back of the head and all, and the battle damage. That it looks so amazing. Like that.
Incredible makeup design. Obviously, it's been touched on numerous times about it was a nightmare to put that suit on, but incredible suit design, incredible makeup design, just through and through. Everything, honestly, every decision, the look of the gun, all those decisions that were made were perfect, and they nailed it right here in the first one.
Yeah, they certainly did. And I mean, when you watch the making of it, actually does say about the amount of problems they had Peter Weller in the suit, and whether or not they got the right look, and eventually when they did settle on it, even the gun, that was like a last minute decision, because the original gun was the Desert Eagle, which was in The Office, which Dick Jones uses.
Yeah,
that was the original gun.
I love actually them pulling that gun out, how it's shiny like that. It looks really nice.
It does look nice. Although I do like the Beretta, the Auto 9 more though.
Oh yeah, that is a nice gun too. Yeah,
I like that. I like that more.
One thing I noticed when I was watching this time is a line, like the last time we see Murphy. The last time we see Murphy and Lewis together, and she's like, "Murphy, I'm a mess," and then he's like,
"They'll fix you. They fix everything."
What do you think that means? It never clicked with me. I guess I was just paying attention this time, because that's right before we go into the last scene.
Yeah, like I've seen.
What do you think he means by that? Because who do you trust?
Yeah, well, what I actually thought of that line, and I still think it today, John. Because I've seen, look, when the internet comes along, as we've said, you watch things and you hear people think like I like watching videos of people first time watching movies to see the reaction, and it's all like younger people than myself in their 20s and stuff. And when he says that line, they think, "Oh no, is she going to be made into a RoboCop now?" And I never ever thought that. I might have jested about it when I was a kid. Lewis should become a female RoboCop. I just took it that it was a tongue-in-cheek remark. OCP fix everything.
See, that's exactly how I took it, like a more like sarcastic remark, like because I feel like I would make a comment like that. But then I thought about it, I'm like, well, he's RoboCop, but he's coming around to being more human again, so maybe he's back to making little jokes like that. So like, because that's the only thing I could think of either. That's the only thing that makes sense. It's like from what we've seen, OCP fixes nothing. They've only made things worse. So it would only make sense if it was just like a little tongue-in-cheek joke. Okay, so you kind of took it the same way as me.
I agree. That's the way I always took it, was like sarcasm. Yeah, sarcasm is the right word to use there, is what he's saying. They'll fix you. And you're right, it's the first time he kind of shows a kind of humorous side to him from when he was turned into RoboCop. Right now, if it's kind of like the T-800 at the end of Terminator 2, and even though he's already said a few words before, like hasta la vista baby and trust me and things like that, at the end of T2 he says, I need a vacation.
Yeah.
And it's kind of in that same kind of vein, I think. He's like, oh, they'll fix you, they fix everything.
Yeah, because like it felt too purposeful for not have a reason. It's not something like the way that's the last time we see Lewis. I'm like, it has to be something. So it couldn't just be there, just like something you're supposed to not think about. So I was always wondering if like what you thought about that, because I took it that way too.
Yeah, that's exactly how I took it. And there was a deleted scene where Lewis is in hospital.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know if you've seen that deleted scene, but they cut it out because they wanted to end it on him saying, "What's your name, son?" And he's like, "Murphy." But there was a deleted scene where she's interviewed by Media Break, and it says about she just survives whatever it was being on duty. It's been a while since I've seen it, and she turned around and she says, "You know what they say? If you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen." And I think somebody else says that in the movie earlier. It's either Dick Jones or Bob Morton. Is it Dick Jones?
Dick Jones says that when they're interviewing him on the news in the opening thing. They're like, oh, OCP had Dick Jones, and he's like,
ask any cop, he'll tell you. If you can't stand the heat, you better stay out of the kitchen.
He said it in very... Yeah. I always think about that, actually. And it's funny, because there's a lot of things that kind of call back from the beginning of the movie that they bring up back at the end. Very well-written screenplay.
Yeah. Well, she says it in her deleted scene. And if it's bound to be on the Blu-ray or 4K, so the deleted scenes are on there.
I'm sure it is. I've actually been meaning... We did the review for that, like, within the first, 3 months of the channel. Me and Matt did it together. I got to re-review it, like, in the new way I review stuff, where it's just a little bit more detailed. So I got to go cycle through all the extras again and everything like that and do, like, a re-review here on the channel sometime.
Well, it should be on there. And that's the thing I was going to say as well, because you were saying about the over-the-top violence and things like that. Like, for example, I remember when I first got the DVD collection, and that was the director's cut. You had the director's cut on there and a theatrical cut, and the likes of a lot of the over-the-top violence was trimmed down. So the likes of Kenny getting blasted, it just went on, it went on, and as I say, there was other bits that were trimmed, and even the likes of Murphy, that puppet when the camera kind of spins around to the back of his head, and then you see Clarence shoot him. Watching that again last night, I didn't like that puppet. I think it looks a bit fake. I prefer the theatrical cut of that.
I actually prefer the theatrical cut of that too. I think it does look a little bit too fake. I think even on 4K against, they probably didn't expect it to be analyzed like that, and it was cut. Yeah. So maybe it's not something that we're supposed to see like that. But maybe they would have fixed it a little bit more. But yeah, I agree. It does look just like a puppet.
It does look like it. Just when I watched it again last time, because I think the theatrical cut, he kind of looks up, and then you see Clarence in shows over, and he pulls the gun. Then it cuts to the back of his head, and you see the back of his head blow it. Whereas this spins around. Just the way he pulls up and the way his mouth opens, it just didn't look real to me.
No, and then that also in that cut, in the theatrical cut, we don't see his hand get blown off. Like, we see him holding his arm, but we don't actually have the image of it being blown off in the actual theatrical cut.
I thought the theatrical cut, that could be wrong, I thought the theatrical cut showed you the arm being blew off, the hand being blew off, but it didn't show you him lifting it up.
Maybe that's
the way he lifts it up. That's what it is. There's a few other bits in that scene, like, for example, when Emile turns around and says, "Hey, Clarence, he's still alive." That's not in the theatrical cut.
Oh, yeah. I haven't watched the theatrical cut
down
in years. I really just watched the director's cut because I do like the extension of Kenny's scene, because I told you, I think that scene's really funny just because of how everybody reacts to this guy. Like, imagine that happened at your job. Nobody's just gonna be walking around the office like, oh man, like disappointed. Everyone went back to work.
Does he say to Bob Morton, I expect you to have your presentation to me in like a few hours or something?
Yeah, they just walk off and they go down the elevator and like, oh, sorry about Kenny, and like he's like, yeah, life in the big city. Like that happens like 3 minutes after Kenny just got murdered in the office. Like I always get a kick out of that. I'm like, because it's just like it's being ridiculous, and then there's like, this guy just died.
I'm talking about Bob Morton again as well. Is like, see when the 209 comes out and they're all in their chairs around the big desk, and they all start backing off like this in their chairs. And I think it's what do you call his mate, his black mate? What do you call him? Johnson.
Johnson, yeah, he was funny,
Johnson,
actually.
He's class, but I think it's him. He's like lying on top of Bob, nearly lying on top of Bob, and when it comes to a standstill and everybody kind of relaxes, Bob's still on him, and he pushes Bob off and kind of goes like that. Or not Bob, sorry, Johnson off and goes like that.
Yeah, he's like, "Why are you leaving?"
Get off me, idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Bob would hang out with any of those guys. Bob's all about himself.
I have to laugh when he says, a couple of models come to my house. Don't look like a couple of models, like a couple of hookers.
I'm pretty sure they're hookers. Yeah, from what I could tell.
Yeah, and then it's like the doorbell must be the champagne, and when Boddicker comes in, he's like, "Bitches leave."
Bitches leave.
Bob, are you gonna call me? The guy walks in with a gun.
Yeah, doesn't even care. Again, like all these people are just like completely desensitized to anything. This guy's standing there with a grenade while they're still leaving, and he's putting it with his tongue to take it out.
Do you notice before though? I love when the video's on this playing, you see him like kind of shaking it first, and then he looks out with his tongue. So he does, and he doesn't. Boddicker doesn't say a word that whole scene. It's absolutely, apart from Bitches Leave, which is absolutely brilliant, and it just his moves, the way how cool he is, how calm he is. It's just chilling, and when he walks his way, he just closes the door and walks off. You know what I mean? He's absolutely brilliant.
I love it. I love how he does everything that Clarence Boddicker does in this movie. Perfect 80s villain. He is honestly one of my favorite villains in film history. And, before we wrap up this, we have to talk about one thing because, like I said, this is in my top 10 all time along with The Terminator. Both films made by Orion. Have you ever seen the original trailer for RoboCop?
Yes, and it plays the Terminator theme. Yes.
Yeah.
Pleasure to present to you RoboCop.
I knew you already did, but I just wanted to make sure everyone else knew that because I think that's so awesome that the temp music they used for the trailer was the Terminator score from wow, I'm forgetting it and I say his name all the time. Brad Fidel.
Brad Fidel, yeah.
So I always think that's pretty cool, like because they they don't really feel very similar other than obviously they have a cyborg in the center of them, but they're very different movies.
They're very different, yeah, exactly. And do you know what? I remember when I was young when I first seen this movie, and I'd seen Terminator around the same time, and I'm not going to say I was not a RoboCop guy. I loved RoboCop, but I really loved the Terminator, John. And I remember a friend of mine, one of my friends, good friends at the time, he got RoboCop on VHS, and he came down after school and we watched RoboCop one evening over 2 nights. Because he had to go home for his dinner, so it was after school. So we watched RoboCop over 2 nights, and then I says, "Well, come back tomorrow. We'll watch Batman." Then we'll watch Batman over the next 2 nights, right? Yeah, but he'd never seen Terminator, and he always used, and it always was that big thing back then, like early 90s, mid 90s. So who would win the fight, RoboCop or Terminator? I was like, who would win the fight, Batman, Superman, Terminator, RoboCop? You know what I mean? And I always used to say, nah, Terminator would destroy RoboCop.
Oh my God, it wouldn't be close. Like, unfortunately, like there's a human being still under RoboCop.
Exactly, and the thing was that he used to say to me, no, Robo would, and then one day we were in school and he came in and he says, here, I watched Terminator the weekend. I was Terminator 2, and I went, well, when Hankley went, you're right, Terminator would destroy him, and he loved RoboCop, so I was more of a Terminator guy back then, but now that I've got older, like I love both these movies, not equally. I still think the edge is the Terminator 2, love RoboCop, but you're right, they are completely different movies, and both excellent in their own ways. And I find it interesting that when Ed Newmar and I can't think of the other writer's name now at this moment in time, when they were writing RoboCop, Terminator had just been released, and they turned around and they said that they didn't watch it. They says that they didn't want to watch it until they'd finished the RoboCop script, and I think that's commendable because they didn't want to be influenced.
Oh, I totally understand that. Like, even when I review things on the channel, I don't like to watch anyone else's reviews before I ever see the movie myself. Like, I used to, but like now that I do my own reviews, I don't want to have anything influencing me. Like, people can say like, "Oh, I don't let it influence me," but you can't control what seeps into your mind. Like, you know? Like,
No, of course you can't.
You might think it feels like an organic idea, but like, would it be if you didn't see this? Like, that's the whole thing. Like, it could just change your perspective naturally.
And it's not only that. Say you're writing a script and you have a load of ideas, and the next thing is you see something and you watch something that you think, oh, they stayed away from Terminator because it was about a cyborg, and they were writing about a cyborg, right? Yeah. So if you go and watch this other cyborg movie, it may just totally destroy your confidence.
Yeah,
and you may just think,
I can't do that. Like, you know, exactly.
I can't do that because it was kind of done like that in the other movie, even though your idea may be a wee bit different or have a bit of a different spin on it. Do you know what I mean? So I totally understand that, and I think that, yeah, they're just, to me, they're the best. These are the best. But before I say this, commit to it, but they definitely have to be the best cyborg or robot movies ever made. RoboCop and Terminator 1 and 2.
Oh, absolutely, because they have a lot more to say than just being an entertaining. They are entertaining movies beyond most entertaining movies that I've ever seen. Like, I can watch Terminator, RoboCop any day of the week and not be bored. They're paced perfectly. You know, a lot of them, though, for the most part, cyborg robot movies, they're just really cheesy. They don't really have a lot to say. That's what I think separates a good movie from, like, you know, a fun movie. Like, that's why I always say, like, I'm not the biggest summer blockbuster fan because I don't like explosions for explosion's sake. I want something there. I need some substance to it to actually like stick my teeth into. Like, you know, that's why I never got behind like the Transformers movies or anything like that. I'm like, it's just eye candy. That's it.
I've never seen a Transformers movie, John, and that's exactly Well, it's exactly for the reasons that you have said, and like look. RoboCop is fast paced. There's a lot of action. It's over the top gore. The likes of the Terminator, I don't feel as if there's violence in any of the first two Terminator movies for the sake of it. And to be honest with you, like, you know, and I'm sure we'll get there at some stage, T2 as well, to me, is one of the best action movies ever made. But the action in that movie is very spaced out. You know, there's a lot of, not lulls, but there's a lot of drama happening between the action set pieces in T2. I mean, it is a long movie. You know, it's I think the director's cut's 2 hours 20 minutes or something. Do you know what I mean? So, as I say, there's not just action in T2 for the sake of it. The same with the Terminator. To me, the Terminator is more of a gritty kind of sci-fi horror movie, and there's action in it, but it's more of there's a lot of drama going on, and that's the thing. And like you say about it, it's hard to find a good AI or cyborg movie. I think there's been some really good ones made. One of my favorite ones, which came out in recent years, which is unlike me, is Ex Machina. I think that movie is outstanding.
Oh, Ex Machina is fantastic. That is a great. I didn't think of it as a cyborg. I don't know why I didn't. It really is. I thought of it more of.
It's AI.
It's an AI movie, 100%.
Yeah.
Which Alex Garland loves to explore those types of movies. Ex Machina is great, and I actually that's another one. Maybe one day we'll do that. Something a little bit recent. I enjoyed that one.
It's a really good movie. Gets you thinking, thought provoking, it's scary. It gets you thinking, and like and as I say, I like Spielberg's AI.
I'm like 50-50 on that. Like I like that movie a lot. I like the ideas, but always feels like honestly that's a movie that makes me a little bit uncomfortable. Haley Joel Osment's AI. Maybe that's the intention of it, but like he makes me feel a little bit uncomfortable in certain scenes. Yeah.
It's been a long time since I watched it. I actually bought it in Blu-ray. Like I think it was last summer, and I just haven't got round to watching it because I had it in DVD, and I was like, I'm going to upgrade, and I just haven't watched it in a long while. But I really enjoyed that movie, and then I have a real soft spot for Short Circuit.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Johnny Five.
Yeah, I understand that. I like Short Circuit too. I haven't seen that in a long time. That's one I have to revisit. That's definitely like that. That's a fun one though.
Yeah, well, I think it was last summer or the summer before I bought Short Circuit 1 and Short Circuit 2. Was it like Short Circuit 2 was in a collector's edition, really nice edition with a poster and all and a booklet. It was I really like Short Circuit 2 as well. I think that's an underrated sequel, and me and my daughter watched them because she had never seen them before, and I really enjoyed rewatching them again.
It's fun to go back to something like from your childhood like that. That's a good one, though. I mean, I haven't seen Short Circuit in a while. Before we wrap this up, is there anything else you want to add to RoboCop?
Well, I mean, I think it is an absolutely outstanding film. It's a timeless classic. It, without a doubt, is a timeless classic. It's definitely one of the best movies of the 80s. One of the best sci-fi movies ever made. I mean, you could talk about this film all night. It's brilliant.
Oh yeah, I could go on and on about it. That's the
Yeah,
thing.
same here.
You know, it's just one of those special, fun movies that like have so much going on that you could just throw on anytime. I didn't ask you. Do you like RoboCop 2 and 3 in the remake?
Hate the remake. Well, I'll say hate the remake. I'll work backwards. I wouldn't say hate it. I just don't see the point in it. When I watched it, I didn't hate it. Thought it was watchable, but it's forgettable, and it's not one that I wish to visit again, because it's like, if I want to watch RoboCop, I'm going to watch RoboCop 1. I have no reason to watch the remake. I think that I didn't like a lot of choices that they made in the remake, but I only watched it the once, John, and I haven't watched it in years. So RoboCop 3 is an embarrassment.
Yeah, that's the one that I probably hate the most, even more than the remake, is RoboCop 3.
Yes, I agree. I think it had great potential, because there was a kind of progression in the story from what happened in RoboCop 1 to RoboCop 2 to RoboCop 3, because RoboCop 3, from what I can remember, was all to do with them knocking down the homes and building Delta City, and by this stage OCP was totally another corrupt and oppressive, and they were controlling the army and they were oppressing the people, and RoboCop turned and started helping the people. I think the nucleus of that story was brilliant. How it was executed, like a comedy, and it was child friendly, was ridiculous. It is an embarrassment. And RoboCop 2, I have a soft spot for. I think it's got a lot of problems. I think it should have went in a different direction in a lot of ways. I hate about RoboCop 2, I hate the fact that he's back to being a full-on robot, and they tried to address that in the first 10 minutes by telling him, Alex Murphy's dead, you no longer have a wife and kid, you're now RoboCop, and he accepted it. Whereas I felt as if they could have built on the end of RoboCop and explored that humanity more, and maybe had him in a lot of ways, John. The story could have been more along the lines of him accepting the fact that he was RoboCop and that he had to be RoboCop, letting go of his family, letting go of his wife and his kid, and them live a normal life. They touched on it briefly at the start. That's it. I didn't mind Kane. I didn't mind the drugs subplot. I thought that there was an awful lot of I loved a lot of the humor in it. It was very akin to the original movie. Like at the start where John Glover, somebody's trying to steal a car to do an advert, and he gets electrocuted.
Yeah.
And he opens it up and the guy falls out and there's like smoke coming off him, and he talks about, buy this car, whatever, it's got this security system and it won't even run down your battery. And he gets in and he drives off. So it had good moments in it about the ozone layer and your woman rubbing this blue kind of like suntan lotion on her, and she looks ridiculous now that we've lost the ozone layer, and all this. So it had its moments. So I do have a soft spot for it. I've seen a lot of reviews that people said at the time when it came out saying it was mean-spirited. But Jesus, wasn't the first film mean-spirited?
Yeah, that's not my issue with RoboCop 2. It's funny that people felt that way with it. But my issue with RoboCop 2 is just that it's like, I don't know if you've ever seen Sicario and its sequel, Sicario de Salgado.
No, I haven't.
Well, Sicario, I think, is a classic, like an all-timer. Great movie. Same thing like with RoboCop. And its sequel is good. It's just that it's forgettable. It's just like a regular forgettable movie that kind of feels like, you see it and you're like, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great. It's just nothing special. And what really kind of makes me not run, and I don't even own RoboCop 2, is exactly what you're saying, is it kind of try to undo the first RoboCop, which I think is a masterpiece. So it kind of hurts me to put it in. Like, I used to be able to watch it and watch them back to back, but now I don't run back because I just don't like how it kind of tries to undo RoboCop. It's kind of how I feel about Dark Fate and T2.
Yeah, and do you know what? It's like I say, when you grow up, when you're a kid and you grow up watching these, I've said it in several other pods we've done, you accept it, but then when you become passionate about film and you start kind of analysing it a wee bit more, you see all the problems. And biggest problem with RoboCop 2 is a lot of problems, but the fact of the matter is I get about 2/3 of the way in and just wish I was watching RoboCop. And I think the whole finale, it just isn't a patch on anything that the original done, and I'm pretty bored by the end of it. And that's the problem I have with RoboCop 2.
Yeah, it's not a special film like the original one. It's, I get it. They probably didn't even plan on a sequel, but they saw that the first RoboCop was such a success. It kind of writes itself to make a sequel. Like, we can do so much with this character, but unfortunately, when you have the regular people in charge of studios and they don't really care about RoboCop like Paul Verhoeven did, you know what they do? They just Send out a cash grab.
Yeah, you know, I do know the funny thing is they do kind of touch on that within the movie about how RoboCop is like kind of like a not a cash grab, but you know they're trying to because like for example, do you remember when they're putting in the new directives in him and they're sitting around the boardroom and they're saying somebody says like, oh maybe he could you know be nicer to people. Why does he always have to walk about firing that big gun? And Johnson makes a joke saying, yeah, maybe he can go out with Boy Scouts and put marshmallows on the fire and you know bake cookies and help cats out of trees. And the woman that's running the organization now, she tries to be cute about it and she goes, that's actually a great idea. Yeah. And sure, when he goes out after he gets fixed, though, if you remember, he gets taken apart by the bad guys and then they fix him back together again, and he's coming off with all these sayings and he's like, oh, isn't the moon lovely tonight? And Lewis is like, Murphy, it's during the day, what's wrong with you? And then he gets out and he pulls his gun out and starts firing it at a guy who's smoking and he shoots around his head and he goes, thank you for not smoking. So all that, I know why they've done it, but I hate all that kind of childish humor in the middle of it. But I do have to say, but Peter Weller's performance in the second movie is still outstanding. Is you know how his movements and how he looks and how the suit looks and everything's absolutely amazing. It has its moments, but it has an awful lot of problems. I mean, if the first RoboCop's a 9 out of 10 or even a 10 out of 10, the second one's like about a 4.5, maybe a 5.
Ah, see, I was even gonna be a little bit more generous and say like a 6. Like like you could put it on and watch it, but like again, like you'll just forget about it. Like I probably won't ever watch it again unless I absolutely have to. If somebody wanted me to watch it, maybe I'll give it a try. Like if we were doing it for the pod, I'd be like, okay, I'll try it again.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I'm waiting on a special edition to come out, and I will that. Even though I'm saying here I give it a 4.5 and a 5, I have a soft spot for it because when I watch the first one, I kind of go to myself, every now and again, I'm like, I wouldn't mind visiting the second one because I bought the DVD box set when it first came out like 20 odd years ago, and I've still got it because it has 2 in it and it has 3 in it, and it's very rare I ever put 3 on, but every now and again I would put 2 on, so I would like maybe a special edition. I know that I think it was Shout Factory brought out a special edition over your neck of woods, but it hasn't been officially released over here on Blu-ray.
No, I hate that region stuff. Yeah, no, because that's only Blu-ray and it's Blu-ray region lock. That's the thing that's good about foreign films is that they not foreign films with 4K Blu-rays is they're always region free. So like we're talking our next a little spoiler for our next show, which is going to be the Long Good Friday. That just got announced for an Arrow 4K release. But only in the UK. But it's region free, so I can come and watch it over here. So hopefully perfect. I like the movie.
You'll be billing me.
Yeah, I'll send you the bill.
I'd buy that for $1. Well, can I just say one more thing about closing it out? Sorry, John, just to cut in there. Just one more thing I wanted to bring up. I meant to bring it up earlier. Is that the one meme that I love that's come out of RoboCop apart from I'd buy that for $1 is the meme picture of RoboCop, and it says, this dude died and they still made him go to work.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's between that and the Sixth Sense. Like these guys they made him they murdered him and they still made him go to work every day.
They still made him go to work. That's the world you're living in.
They pretty much make us do it now.
Make you work to your drop.
Oh my god, yeah. That's why most people will die after they retire. It's like, I made retirement. They get like a year, maybe. That's because for this.
35, Jesus, you're going to be working to your 75 the way things are going.
Oh my god, yeah. Forget it. I don't even plan on retiring.
Yeah, you may not. You may not.
It'd be a miracle if I did. I think on tomorrow's show. I think I said it. I'm like talking about Gene Hackman being 94. I'd be like, 94. I'd be like, I'm 30 years dead by 94.
The only 94 you've seen is 1994.
Exactly. That's it. I'll never hit that. This guy's still walking around. It's the celebrity legs.
Yeah. He's doing well. Him and Clint.
Yeah. I mean, Clint's still making movies.
He's still making movies. Couldn't believe it.
You saw him out there with the white beard. Like, I can't believe the guy's still going. Like, it's unbelievable. I heard they got rid of his office at Warner Brothers. I'm like, yeah, because they thought he'd be dead by now. That's why.
the lease was up 10 years ago. He's still in there. I was like, fuck's sake, get him out now, will you?
You just, we're sorry, but like, we thought you'd be dead. No offense.
got a plaque up and all for him.
Yeah, he's been directing movies here since the 70s. Everybody else is gone, man. Or they at least retired.
Yeah, listen, I think it's brilliant to see. It's brilliant
me
to see.
too.
My dad is a big Clint Eastwood fan, always has been, and my dad's turning 75 the end of this month, and I say to him, Dad, look at Clint Eastwood, still going at 90, whatever it is. That'll be you.
Yeah, I think his next movie is called The Last Juror. That's what he's working on, or something like that. So, I think honestly, the way it ends for Clint Eastwood, we'll just find out that he like died making a movie because I don't think he'll stop.
Yeah, it's probably what's keeping him going. And listen, that's probably like the 4th or 5th last movie he's made.
Oh yeah, like he made Unforgiven in 1992 to say goodbye to westerns. He hung on so long, then he made another western.
Yeah, yeah, he's an absolute legend. He's brilliant.
Yeah, he's Clint Eastwood. You never can deny one of the Hollywood's most famous actors and directors. He's probably the top of that, right? Just because the amount of work he's put out with, between directing and acting, it's incredible.
Yeah, he's a good actor. He's not the greatest actor, but Jesus, he's done some brilliant characterizations and brilliant movies. And as you say, when he moved into the director's chair, he's just been as good. I mean, the guy's won 2 best director Oscars, hasn't he?
Yeah, Unforgiven and $1 Million Baby.
Yeah, which I didn't like $1 Million Baby, but that's a different story. But
I don't like $1 Million Baby either, so.
Well, it's good to know, John. I will talk about that some other time. Horrible. I just didn't like it at all. Just didn't like it.
We'll have to do a pod on like the worst Best Picture winners because that's up there for me.
Yeah, we can just complain for 2 hours.
Yeah, we'll do a 2-hour pod of us complaining about every movie that's bad that won Best Picture because there are a lot of them.
Yeah, there's a lot. Yeah, we might have to split that up into sections.
Yeah, especially if you don't even like compare them to the nominees. You actually just compare them to other movies that came out that year. Like, it's incredible. Thank you, everyone, for being here with us, guys. We'll be back next time. We already told you with the long Good Friday, so we hope you enjoyed this show. And if you did, don't forget to like and subscribe, turn notifications on. If you want to become a channel member, you can do that. Look for that in the description below. But anyway, guys, thank you so much, and we'll be seeing you around.